Hi, long range hunting. Today we're going to be debunking 8 of the most common myths and lies about long range hunting. I'm going to give you a slight view into my life. Now, when you're known for something and being especially knowledgeable in that, you get a lot of people that come to you for questions. Whether it's long range, hunting, bullet construction, terminal ballistics, whatever the case might be, I end up helping a lot of people out. You know, I average probably 30 to 40 conversations a day with members from 16 different countries. Now, I don't mind. I really enjoy this. The only way to continue to grow hunting and shooting is to help people out and help them learn. Help them learn correct information. You want to set them up for success, not for failure. Now, being knowledgeable in certain subjects and helping people out is kind of a double-edged sword. Now, there is the great parts like, you know, helping somebody out and seeing them succeed, and then they teach somebody else the same things you taught them and they succeed. It's very fulfilling, especially when they're teaching their kids or whatever the case might be, or even if it's just a person you're helping. It's very rewarding. The problem is you also get the other edge of that sword, the bad. Now, what do I mean by this? What I mean is I get sent every single thing out there about especially long range hunting. A lot of this is simply, some is lack of knowledge and some is people just don't like it. Now, something that all hunters can relate to is anti-hunters. They will lie, manipulate, and do anything they can to take away our way of life, our hunting, because they think their beliefs trump what we do. That their opinions are actual facts, and their opinions should be forced on others. Now, unfortunately, we have a huge plague of that even in the hunting community, of hunters turning on each other and stabbing each other in the back. And that includes lying about stuff, which is where we come into here. Now, whether it's the guy on the internet who just, you know, doesn't like long range hunting, doesn't know about it, whatever the case might be, or if it's somebody bigger like the real gunsmith who is just a pathological liar who doesn't like long range and really doesn't know a lot, and so he just gets on his YouTube channel and trashes long range hunting, when in fact it's very easy to disprove everything he says, and anybody with half a brain can tell he really doesn't know what he's talking about. Now, today we're going to be talking about, this is a long list, so I've narrowed it down to 8 so it doesn't take, 3 years. Let's start at number 8 and work up to number 1. And I'm doing these by the amount that I hear them, not by how stupid the question, because, dear God, that's still a long list. We're out there just flinging bullets and trying to target practice on animals. Now, let's make this straight. I don't care if you're bow hunting, if you're rifle hunting, if you're pistol hunting, if you're hunting with a spear, I don't care. Target practice is exactly that. It's a target. You go out to the range to practice for hunting season. Or you go to your bow range, whether it's like mine in my backyard, but you go out and you practice. So that way when you get that shot, it doesn't matter if it's 30 yards with a bow or 600 yards with a rifle. You're capable of those shots. Long range hunting is no different. Nobody's out there target shooting animals saying, hey, let's see if I can get this. No. We take shots inside our capabilities. Now, is there the very small minority that does actually do that? They go out with no training and no real knowledge. They will buy a gun and they think they can shoot long range because they went to a range and flung some rounds down range. Sure, that's like comparing poachers to hunters. You know, every hunter out there will tell you, you know, when somebody poaches something, they're like, well, you know, that doesn't represent the rest of us. It's the same thing with long range. The majority of guys out there are responsible, ethical, and have a lot more knowledge than the average hunter, to be honest. The average hunter will go out, they'll grab their box of ammo, knock the dust off, grab their rifle. They haven't shot it all year. And as long as they're hitting a pipe plate 10 inches at 100, 200 yards, they think they're good. They've been using the same ammunition. They don't study, they don't practice, they don't do all the stuff that long range hunters do. If you go through your Facebook groups, look at what people talk about in the off season, and then go to a long range hunting one. The regular hunting one, there's really not a lot in the off season. They'll talk about pass hunt and stuff like that, but there's no real emphasis on training. Whereas in long range groups, we're always talking about it, especially mine. We talk about it year round. After season ends, you know, of course we have people from around the world. Some don't have seasons. Then there's game animals that don't have seasons like hogs and coyotes. But we're constantly throughout the year, we're updating equipment. We're updating as we learn and going through the different stuff. We're changing, you know, we're changing bullets. We're testing bullets. We're doing all this kind of stuff to make ourselves better throughout the entire year. So by the time the next season comes around, we're right on top of it. So far, since the last season, I've upgraded more than a few things. I've got a new rangefinder. I'll be getting a new Kestrel with better ballistics so I can get that DSF true at trans and subsonic flight. Are constantly pushing ourselves and training and getting ready for that next hunt, whether it's an off-season hunt or if it's, you know, your regular fall hunting season. We're always training. There's not a bunch of people running around just buying guns and flinging rounds. Now, number 7 is a doozy, to say the least. I mean, it's pure stupidity. And, you know, trying to be nice about this stuff, but at the same time, when you deal with something a lot, it's kind of like being a veteran. We have a very unique sense of humor. It's just a coping mechanism. When you deal with stupidity on a daily level, you kind of get a little bit rough around the edges. Now, number 7 is one I hear constantly. And that is that we go backwards to get a longer shot. Yes, it's that stupid. People think that, let's say we have an animal at 100 yards. Instead of shooting that animal, going the 100 yards, recovering the animal, and then packing it out, if you're in the mountains or get into your truck or whatever, that instead of doing that, we are going to turn around, go the opposite direction. Go so we can get a long shot, fire, go back to there, get the animal, and get it back out, especially in the mountains after elk. Yes. When I've been hiking for 3 days and I'm tired and I'm sore and I'm packing around my, you know, heavy precision rifle and I see that beautiful bull elk at 300 yards and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make this day harder than it has to be. I'm going to make this hunt even more punishing. Instead of taking a shot before that animal figures out that anybody's around or moves on, because again, animals, you know, they don't stay still. Instead of doing that shot right there, I am going to, after days of hunting in the mountains, I'm going to hike in the opposite direction, which could also potentially scare something else because there's other animals around. So instead of shooting my target animal, the one I'm after that I've stalked in on or just ran into, I'm going to go the opposite direction, making myself more tired and more work. Then I'm going to find a spot. Then I'm going to set up. Then I'm going to shoot the animal. Then I'm going to walk all the way back. Then I'm going to start the nice process of breaking down and packing out that animal. All extra work just so I can get a few hundred extra yards. I mean, seriously, people. Use your brains. I mean, who comes up with this stupidity? We don't do that. Have I moved backwards before? Yes. But that wasn't to gain distance. It was to get a better shot. My mule deer in Idaho, I've talked about a couple times, 715 yards. We saw it at just shy of a mile, and we stalked in from there. And when I ranged it at 700 yards, I wasn't like, you know what? Let's go back to where we started and go try to hit this thing. No. The only reason we moved is because where I was very steep, and we were having a hard time in that terrain getting stable. Whereas if we moved up and backwards a little bit, there was a nice kind of knoll that was a little bit flatter, and I was actually able to get prone and take that shot. So did I add a few yards? Yes, but it was a better shooting position. It had nothing to do with trying to get more range. It had to do with getting a better shot. Also, the fact that it gave me a cleaner shot. I wasn't having to mess with any trees. It was a clear, open shot. And that animal died, dropped dead on the spot. So it's one of those things. Quit saying that's, it's stupid. Just plain stupid. Now we come to number 6. This crap. Yeah, you read that one right. This is why I drink. Stupidity. Let me make this very, very clear real quick. That's good. If you look at the numbers, I mean, honestly, look at them. Long-range hunters are responsible for most of the wounded animals is a load of horse crap. It's complete BS. Let's just look at some factual numbers. Annually, in the United States alone, there's an annual, over the last few years, of 15 million people that hunt every year. Out of that, long-range hunters are less than 1%. Think about that. We're talking about thousands, not even hundreds of thousands. We're talking about thousands of long-range hunters in the United States. It's not a large number. So to think that thousands of people are responsible for all the wounded animals by 15 million people is ridiculous. If you really want to do some research, I highly recommend you do this. Because what a lot of people don't realize is there are some seasons that overlap. But generally speaking, there's a separate archery season and there's a rifle. Now, sometimes archery will continue through that rifle. States like Oklahoma, they got a long season. October 1st through January 15th is all archery. Now, are there rifle ones in there? Yes. Get in your Facebook groups and watch in bow season only. And then pay attention to rifle. See which season has the most people asking about blood trails and asking for help, or if somebody has dogs for tracking. Because if you really want to look at it, and I know this, I see it all the time. I'm an avid archery hunter too. Archery hunting is actually the biggest dynamic. There's more archery hunters than ever, and that is the biggest demographic that actually results in animals being wounded. One, because bows don't compare to rifles. They don't. Will they both kill? Absolutely. However, an arrow only kills by cutting, and shot placement is critical because you don't have that temporary wound cavity. You don't have that shock to cause rupturing and everything else. You only have that diameter of the blade, and shot placement is critical. Unlike with long range or with the rifle, animals can duck arrows too. So you can take what would be a good shot and they catch movement and it ends up getting a bad shot and there you go. Or it slipped around organs because your blades weren't sharp enough or whatever the case might be. But if you look at it, and I've done this for several years, I've watched and seen where that's at, and it's actually archery. Again, I got nothing against archery. I'm a big archery hunter. But if you really want to look at the demographic that wounds the most animals, it's archery hunting, and most animals are wounded within, 100 yards, even with rifles. Now people say, oh, well, you just don't talk about it. You don't talk about, the misses and how many animals you've wounded and this and that. Well, here's the thing. We do talk about that stuff. It just doesn't happen very often. There's a huge double standard out there. If an archery hunter misses, an arrow, gets ducked, or a bad shot happens, or even close range rifle, people say, oh, you know what? It's hunting. It happens. Don't beat yourself up. Learn from the experience and move on. It's hunting. There's things that are outside your control. But a long range hunter misses, even a clean miss. Oh, you're unethical. You should have never taken a shot that distance. What about you? You missed 2 and you wounded 1 over there with your bow. Oh, that's different. That's just hunting. It's no different. Do we train more extensively than anybody else? Absolutely. Do we miss very often? No, we don't, because we put in the time and the effort. Number 5 is one of my favorite ones to laugh at people about. And that is the fact that you don't need camo to long range hunt, and you don't need skill. And that's the reason you're doing long range. You don't have the skills to get up close and personal. Well, here, I'm going to pop your little bubble, because 90% of hunters archery hunt. I don't know what it is about people and the stupidity around some of this stuff, but they will archery hunt, rifle hunt, pistol hunt, muzzleloader hunt, and then they'll turn around and be like, oh, you long range hunts because you're no good up close. So people are only allowed to use one method and one weapon. I mean, seriously, most long range hunters archery hunt. They didn't start off, we didn't just pick up a gun and be like, I'm going to shoot this clear over there. Do all of it. I hunt with a pistol sometimes. Even rifles. It's a common misconception that, I don't know where this comes from, because it defies logic. And this is what happens when there's no warning labels and people who burn themselves and they need a label saying coffee is hot. Well, yeah, it's hot. That's what happens when people like that, breed. You get a race of people that are just brain dead. I mean, the zombie apocalypse is already here. There's no activity up there. They think that for some reason with long range, there's only that one animal. And there's no other animals around. And so because that one is 800 yards, we don't need camouflage, we don't need stealth, we don't need to be able to stalk, we don't need any other skills. I'll tell you what, it is a running joke in the long range hunting community. And it happens all the time. Every time you get set perfectly, you'll find this nice field or mountainside to watch where you can really stretch out. You've been practicing all year. You're ready to go. Wind, conditions, everything is perfect. And here comes an animal at 50 yards. I'm serious. It happens all the time. It's annoying. But again, if I have 2 animals walk out, let's say I'm at 800 yards on a nice bull, and a similar bull walks out at 100 yards. Well, guess which bull I'm shooting? I'm shooting the 100-yard bull. 1, it's an easier shot, and 2, I don't have to go as far. If you're stalking in on elk, let's say archery, one of the most common things to happen is you get busted, not by your target animal, but a cow. Let's say if you're going for an elk. The cow will actually bust you, and that animal pays attention. And so there's animals everywhere. So it's not that we're located on that one animal at the time, sure, but that doesn't mean another animal won't pop up, or that animal won't spook that animal. So it's one of those things that you still need camouflage, you still need stealth. We're in the same woods, people. It's not like we're sitting at a hotel room firing into the woods and then driving up and going and getting it. We're packing in right next to you. So We're in the same woods doing the same thing. The only difference is our abilities are better than the average hunter, and we have the equipment, the knowledge, the training, and the abilities to reach out further than most people can. This one is one of the most common one and one of the stupidest things I ever hear. I'm going to need more than one bottle. Long range hunters are just pretending to be snipers. This brings stupidity to a whole new level, buddy. Because one, it shows a lack of understanding in not only shooting and long range hunting, but also snipers. Let's do a little bit of those things you like to call facts. And one, snipers are the best hunters out there. Now, people say you're just trying to be a sniper. You're just trying to take long shots like a sniper. And the whole long shot thing doesn't have to do with snipers. It doesn't have to do with shooting in general as far as trying to make it long. Because there's, long range target shooters. They're saying, oh, you're just trying to get a long range kill like a sniper. Well, here's the thing. One, most sniper engagements are 600 yards and in. The long shots don't happen a whole lot. Two, they're trying to say this to make you look bad. Like you're just trying to make far shots just because you can, because you're trying to pretend that you're something you're not. Well, here's the thing. Snipers are some of the best hunters in the world. You can be the best shot in the world and still fail sniper school. In fact, the highest failure rate is actually in the stock event in school because it is so difficult. You have to not only be able to blend in and avoid animal detection, because believe it or not, if you get busted by an animal, people can see that. They are hunters of the most dangerous game, and that's humans. And not only do they have to defeat animals and humans and stalk in there to take a shot and then get out alive in multiple environments, which means they have to be masters of camouflage and stealth, but they also have to defeat technology, including thermal imaging. Now, if they can do that, that's what you want. You want to be a ghost. You want to be able to get into an animal's domain and sneak up on it and take a shot. Now, similar to snipers though, most long-range hunting shots are inside 600 yards, with the vast majority of those being inside 400. Now, people think that we're all out there flinging rounds at 1,000 yards. Now, I don't know if that's just because that's the benchmark as far as long-range shooting goes, of why people instantly jump to that 1,000-yard mark. But there's no competition. There's no medal you get of, oh, you shot an animal at 1,000 yards. Here you go, gold medal. No, it's we shoot with inside our capabilities. And that can be dependent on the bullet, on its minimum impact velocity. It can be on ourselves, the wind, whatever the case might be. One of the most untalked about things in long range hunting, and people will claim that it's, missing and wounding animals. It's not. It's the ones we pass. How many shots we pass up. Now, we never talk about it. It's like archery with stocks. 1 out of 10 stocks are successful on archery. It's not talked about though. But it's true. If you are spot and stalking, you'll have an average of 1 successful stock per 10. In long range hunting, it's passing shots. Whether it's the wind's not right, we can't get a comfortable position, we can't get stable, whatever the case might be, that we either are uncomfortable with the shot, the terrain won't allow, recovery is impossible because of a canyon or something, we're trying to get closer, whatever the case might be. Nobody really brings that up because it's not really as sexy as talking about the success. Does that mean that it doesn't happen? That happens all the time. We pass on more shots than we ever take. Because when you're talking about long range, unlike short range, you really got to make sure you're on your game, because not only do you have to go that distance to where the animal is to even go down there and recover it, but if you make a bad shot, that means you have to travel that much more distance to get down there to fix that problem. So we are very picky with our shots. Now, Number 3, one of my favorites. Deer can duck the bullet. No, they can't. Mythbusters busted this with people dodging a bullet if they saw snipers flash. Well, even with a Hollywood flash at 1,200 yards, they couldn't do it. With a realistic muzzle flash from a blank, they couldn't do it. That animal isn't going to duck that bullet. Duck is a natural response. They duck, they take off, especially white-tailed deers. And the reason they do is archery, up close. And it's because they either hear something, which could be that string that from that bow, you got a loud bow, or they catch movement, either from that bow closing, you move, the arrow flying through the air, whatever the case might be. It's a close range thing, and so they duck and run. At long range, that's not a factor. It truly isn't. It's not a factor. You know, my other favorite one that has to do with this is the deer stepping during the shot myth, which is quite honestly just as ridiculous. People act that, you know, if a deer takes a step, it's moving 12 feet and then you're shooting it in the guts or missing. Well, just like a human, if I'm standing here and I take a step, now that's an exaggerated step, but if I take a normal step, how far am I actually moving? From here to here. I'm only moving a couple inches. And with that temporary wound cavity especially, so if I'm, let's say, on a 10-inch vital, and my point shifts from center aim 2 inches, 2.5 inches to the right, guess what? I'm still in vitals. It's still a vital shot. They're not moving astronomical amounts, and just like archery, you're going to wait until you get that pause. You're watching them eating, whatever the case might be, and you're waiting for that perfect moment. And people overestimate flight times of bullets because they think, oh, well, you know, by the time the bullet gets down there, it's, you know, it could move and do all this. Well, bullets are traveling a lot faster and covering distance a lot faster than you think. It's like people attacking people who do deer runs. In certain areas, that's a very common tactic. And I saw a guy getting criticized as they had deer running by him close range and they were dropping deer. Well, that's a normal thing. And honestly, it's not that hard once you understand it. But this guy was criticizing this guy for taking a shot at a running deer at 50 yards. Well, I got talking to that guy and found out his load data, and he was shooting at 3,000 feet per second muzzle velocity. So to break that down in very simple math for you, that's a 20th of a second. Literally a 20th of a second. Break that down how short that is. That deer cannot move very far in a 20th of a second. Even if it was 100 yards, that's still a 10th of a second. You aim front of those lungs, guess what? It's going to be in the lungs. It's not exactly hard. So people they overestimate what stuff can do. That deer, we're waiting for it to get bedded. We're watching it eat. We're watching how it moves. You know, a whitetail will do certain stuff like with its tail before it raises its head. You know, there's certain things. So you watch animal behavior just like archery, and you time that shot. And, you know, we're not sitting there pushing, you know, subsonic rounds out there. We're pushing supersonic rounds at very high velocities. And so that bullet is covering that distance very, very quickly. Yep. I'm going to need it. I have to pace myself. I have to be able to finish the video. Number 2, matched bullets don't expand or are only designed to expand on paper. If you believe the latter, that matched bullets are only designed to expand or will only expand on paper, dear God, don't breed. There's enough stupidity in the world as there is. There's a lot of politicians. You might have a career in that. Anybody who shot a gun at a piece of paper target, you're going to blow right through it. There's not enough impact resistance. People who say this shows a complete lack of understanding of terminal performance and bullet construction. Now, if you get a lot of paper, can it cause expansion with the necessary impact resistance? Sure. But even a few sheets isn't going to do that. Especially not one sheet of paper in a target. That bullet is zipping right through. Heck, even hides. We study the hides, the entry holes and stuff, whether it's in the gel test or in real life. And guess what? Even that hide just has a perfect little bullet hole through there. Even at high velocity, with a low velocity expanding bullet, it still just punches a hole through it. So if you believe that, either you're just running your mouth, or dear God, just dear God. I've talked about this a lot, about marketing and everything, and you can go watch those videos. But real quick, I'm just going to show you one example. And a lot of people don't realize that most companies have multiple websites. And one is for law enforcement. Now, a lot of people don't realize the FBI tests a bunch of bullets, including match bullets, because that's what snipers use. Now, due to politicians in combat, you can't use a hunting or expanding bullet. It's stupid, it's ridiculous, but that's politicians for you. So they have to get around that to get snipers what they need. And that's done through marketing. So just because something is marketed for one thing doesn't mean it doesn't work for the other, or that it's not designed to. Let's say the NHL, the National Hockey League, has an ice skate designed specifically for them. Now, does that mean that a kid playing hockey can't use that same skate because it wasn't designed for the lower end, or somebody who just wants to ice skate can't use that ice skate? No, of course not. It's an ice skate. It works. And in fact, it works better than a lot of other stuff because it's designed to perform better. Now, this is Hornady's law enforcement website, and it's going to show you not only does it state the ELD match, which is a bullet that I use pretty much all the time, and that we've talked about a lot, is specifically designed to expand and has excellent terminal performance. You can see even they say it. So, that whole "they won't expand," it shows a lack of knowledge in just everything. Really, it does. Bullet construction, just quit saying it. It's ridiculous. They have contracts to fulfill. They have to be very careful about how they say stuff, but the results speak for themselves. Now, we are finally at number 1. And, dear God, is it a doozy. Now, this one is courtesy of the real gunsmith. That moron, yes, that one. This is one of the most common ones I hear, and it's from people that watch him. And he claims, and so do other people, that we edit footage and wound animals. Now, I've talked about it, earlier. People say we're just out there flinging rounds. And what happens is they say it can't be done. And then you go out and you see a video. You see a perfectly healthy animal. It's out there eating. And you see the shot. It drops dead on the spot. Great. That was a long-range shot. It shows it's perfectly capable of doing it. And it destroys their argument. So what do they do when they don't have a valid argument? No facts? Attack. They got to make up something. So what they're going to do is they're going to come out and say, oh, well, yes, it worked that time. They got lucky. Or, well, yeah, it worked that time, but you didn't see all the animals they wounded prior to that, just trying to get that one shot. They wounded it and they just edited the footage. The real gunsmith even went as far as saying that what really happens is the industry's lying to you. So professional TV shows, And regular hunters, long-range hunters, that footage, he says, has been doctored to make it look like it's possible. And he says he knows this from his extensive time hunting and knowledge, which we both know is a load of crap. If you suck at something for 50 years, that doesn't make you good. It means you sucked at something for 50 years. So let's just get that straight for one. His claim is that what really happens is that animal is shot up to 16 times. And then they sneak up and kill it with a final close-up shot. So apparently we're not sneaky enough to sneak up on an animal in the first place, but we can sneak up on it to finish it off. I don't know where they're, of course they don't have logic. But anyways, getting back to this ridiculous topic. Think about it. Have you ever seen an animal shot that many times? Heck, if they don't get good performance and don't die, they run off usually at one shot. Have there been odd cases where I've seen one shot a couple times? Sure. 16 times? No. And the times that it has stuck around and been shot multiple times, it's not with a good matched bullet, it's with a piss poor hunting bullet. Because they're not getting good performance. It's not giving them that terminal performance that they require in order to shut down the CNS. Now, I'm going to show you a couple pictures real quick of actual animals shot at long range and the exit holes. If that animal was shot 16 times, technically 17, or up to 17, if you count the shot that put it down, if that was actually true, that thing would look like Swiss cheese. But it's a lie. They don't have a valid argument, but they don't like it. And so what they do is they make up those lies. I've talked about this earlier. There was a case that PETA did something similar. They had a picture of a deer that was dead and the fawn next to it, and they claimed that hunters killed it. Now, this happened in an April or May, I don't remember what it was of that year. And any hunter that knows, one, by the size of the fawn and the fact that there is a fawn, and the time of year that's not hunting season. And you can see the road marks. That deer was killed by a car. And even Fish and Game confirmed that. They posted it up there saying that some senseless hunter murdered it and that the baby had to sit there by the carcass and watch its mother bleed out. Well, it's a load of crap. They don't have any real facts, so they got to resort to trying to twist the truth. And that's really all these attacks against long range are. It's just twisting the truth because they don't have anything to really say because they don't know enough. They don't have facts on their side. They just got their opinions and they'll use anything they can and twist it. Oh, well, you're wounding animals, you're editing footage. That one really gets me because go watch a high production movie, Hunger Games. There's a part in Hunger Games where she sees an elk. It's in one of the Hunger Game movies. And it's that's a multi-million-dollar project. Best editors in the world, best CGI people. And you see this elk and it's looking at him, it's drinking from a screen, and it runs off. Now, anybody who's ever seen wildlife can look at that and say, that's CGI. Very good job from the best in the world, but it's still CGI. And then people think that Joe Smo like me or somebody else with their basic editing software can take our video that we filmed through our spotting scope or whatever the case is, and that we can edit it in order to show the animal not wounded and drop dead on the spot when really we shot it a bunch of times. I mean, just seriously. Now, do we edit videos to cut down the content? Sure. Because nobody wants to watch 3 hours prior of you staring at the woods. I know I don't. Do I want to see little bits and pieces of that? Sure. And then up to the shot? Yes. If I want to go spend hours looking at the outdoors, I'm just going to go outdoors. I don't need to watch 3 hours of it just to see one shot where it's over in a matter of seconds, right? So do we edit? Yes. That's just to cut down the amount of time of dead space of nothing happening. But are we capable or even have the technology to edit a home video or even a professional one done? Do we have the technology or the ability to even hire the people that could even possibly, because even the people in Hollywood can't manage that. So think about that. It's really not possible. So whether you like long-range hunting or not, that's up to you. If you choose not to do something, that's fine. But don't force your opinions on others, just like you don't want others to force, like non-hunters, to force their way of life on you. That's not right. And spreading lies and manipulating stuff to make another hunter look bad because you don't do it or don't like it is not only childish, but that makes you worse than the anti-hunters, because that's family stabbing family in the back. Hunters divided, we're going to be defeated. The anti-hunters only have to bide their time, because internally we're all at each other's throats over who's better and this and who's trying to force this. Everybody has the view these days that their way is right and everybody else should be forced, when in fact that's not true. Vegans want you to be vegan or you should die. There was true story, there's a video on that. And everybody wants to force their opinion instead of just everybody living their lives. We're all hunters, even the long range ones. It's just a different style. If you don't like it, that's your choice. But quit making up lies and quit spreading all this kind of just nonsense because you don't like something. It's ridiculous, it's childhood, and it's unsportsmanlike. And that's what we are. We're sportsmen. So for all those people who claim to be sportsmen and then go out of their way to make somebody else look bad, think about that. Is that really sportsmanlike behavior? Is it? Everybody out there, be safe, no matter whether you're archery hunting, rifle hunting, long range, short range, pistol, muzzleloader, spear, nunchucks, whatever you choose to do. Just do it safely, be ethical, train hard, enjoy yourself. Everybody happy hunting.
Not that hard, people.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notification bell so you won't miss out on any future video. And happy hunting.